Hi, my name is Darsh and welcome to D Brothers. Today we are going to be talking about the circle. Before we start, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. So let's begin. Okay, so what is a circle? A circle is a set of points that are equidistant from another center point. So let's see how that would work out on the board. Here is our center point. Let's draw another point that's a foot away. Another one, and another one. So these points are equidistant from the center point, which means they're the same distance. So this point is the same distance to this point as this point. And if I keep going like this, I'm going to keep going until I have enough to say whatever I want to say next. Okay, that should be enough. Okay, so if you keep going and going and going, you're gonna end up with something that looks like this. Something that looks a lot neater than this, but this is the best I can do right now. Okay, so what does this look like? It's a circle. So if you keep going with the dots, you're gonna end up with a circle. But why don't we see it as a bunch of points in a math workbook then? Well, that's because there are infinitely many of these points and it will be impossible to distinguish one from another. So now we know how a circle is built. Now let's check out the parts of a circle. So the first part of a circle that I'm going to be talking about is called the radius, which is like that. It is the equal distance from which the center point and any other point is separated. And it will be represented with r. R equals to radius. That's a bit long of an A. Radius. The next part of a circle that I'm going to be talking about is a diameter. This is a diameter. Ooh. As you can see, a diameter is the distance from one side to another side, straight through the middle, straight through the center point. So, diameter will be represented with D. D equals to diameter. So, you can also see that the diameter is actually equal to two radiuses. I think that's how you say a multiple radius, right? Okay, so radiuses. So from here to here is one radius. From here to here is another radius. Two radius that are making a straight line are a diameter. So the last part of the circle that I'm going to be talking about is called the circumference. The circumference is the perimeter of a circle. Why is it called circumference? It's called a circumference because perimeter is for anything that has straight lines. Perimeter. For anything that has curved lines, it's a circumference. So let's look at the circumference. The circumference is just a line, the perimeter of the circle from here to here. So all the way around the circle is the circumference. So all the way around is the circumference. I'm going to be labeling it with C. C equals to circumference. So, there's a circumference. So, what can we do with all these though? Well, we can find the value of the circumference. So, there's a formula to finding the value of the circumference. But before we learn that, we should learn about something called pi. Pi is drawn like this. and not drawn like this. Yeah, it's not drawn like that. This is pi. So, what is pi? Pi is something called an irrational number. An irrational number is a number that goes on forever and never repeats. So pi is an irrational number. But we know it's an irrational number, but what is it? Well, pi is the number of times that the diameter can go around the circumference. So pi will always be the same for any circle, small or large. Let's test that theory here. Oh, that's a bad circle. That's decent enough, I guess. And here's a smaller circle right here. So before we get to this, I should tell you guys that pi is something that's called a ratio. A ratio is the comparison of a value to another value that's written like a fraction. So this is a comparison of the circumference to the diameter, which is equal to pi. So this is also division, because it's a fraction. So now let's get back to this. Here is the diameter for this, here is the diameter to this. Now, let's make pi. So if we take the diameter and we wrap it around this, we'll go till about here, or till about here. This will be D. Now if we go more, we're going to end up till about here, D, which stands for diameter. And if we keep going more, we're going to end up till about here, D. But we still have this much left. What are we going to do with that? We only need part of a D, which is a diameter. All of these, up to here, here, and here, that's just a full diameter, but we only need part of a diameter here. So if we put that here, that happens to be 0.14 D. 0.14 D. So if we put all of that together, there's 1, 2, 3 diameters, and then 0.14. So 3.14 diameters, which is the value of pi rounded off to 2 decimal places. 3 pi equals to 3.14. And we have to round it off because, as we learned, it's an irrational number, which means it'll keep on going forever. Okay, so that's pi. But how do we use it to find the circumference? So we learned that the diameter goes around the circumference 3.14 times. So let's do this over here. We wrote pi equals to C over D, which is circumference over diameter. Let's write that again over here, but a little bit differently. Pi over 1 equals to C over D. Now we know C is circumference, so you have to find out what is the circumference, so we have to find the value of C. So to do that first, we need to take the denominator of the way, and to do that we have to multiply the whole thing by D, because normally if this was something else, we have to multiply by D and whatever this was, but since this is 1, we can just do D. So D times C over D, actually I'm going to write that down, times D, also going to write that down over here, times D would equal to D pi equals to C. So we found out what C is. C, I'm just going to write that the other way around, and it's still the same thing even if I write it in the opposite direction. C equals to D pi. So we can't leave it as D pi though. I mean, we could, but the better way to write it would be C equals to, what is a D? D is 2 pi. Diameter is also 2 pi, as not 2 pi, 2r I meant. Because I told you guys, from here to here is a radius, and from here to here it's also a radius, and that's r. So 2 r's. So C equals to 2r pi. And if we want to write that as algebraically correct, we have to write C equals to 2 pi r. And that is a formula to finding the circumference of a circle. And yeah, so what we learned today was the parts of a circle, what is a circle, and what is pi. And we figured out the formula for finding the circumference. And yeah, that's it for today. Bye.